Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Thursday. We are back with a fresh installment of Taking It Back. With me is Zach Payne, RedPill78. What's up, Zach? Happy Thursday, buddy.
Happy Thursday to you as well, Adel. I hope that you enjoyed your little trip out west.
I did, man. It was honestly one of the best weekends I've had in a long, long, long time. So
Sweet.
it was a great time. It is good to be back. I'm still recovering. It was a very physically draining
I
trip. I
can
did not
imagine.
exactly sit down and relax for very, very long during that whole thing. But no, it's good to be back. How was your week?
So far so good. Obviously, just grinding, continuing to keep the nose to the grindstone, I guess, as it were, and making my way towards the election. I'm about ready to go to Gart in Deadwood, South Dakota. That's going to be in just about 2 weeks. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun. So I will not be here the Thursday of the week of the 14th. I don't know if it's like the 15th or the 16th, but uh,
Okay.
I'll be in Deadwood for then. Um, Other than that, Lisa and I got a new carpet cleaner. So we've been cleaning carpets. That's the most exciting thing happening right now as a homeowner, having clean carpets.
It is exciting. I remember when I got my first carpet cleaner, Zach. It was quite a day in the Nero house, I gotta say.
She's going nuts out there. She was like, let me know when you don't need quiet so I can get going on these carpets.
Did
And they look
you
great, let me tell you.
did you get one of like the professional ones, like the big boxy ones that you have to go like real slow, like soak the carpet and then it sucks it up, or what'd you go with?
It's not like the professional ones that you would rent from like Kroger or something like that. Like, do you know what
Yeah,
I'm talking about? Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
when you're checking out, you're like taking your cart and then they have those rented carpet cleaners. Not that big. It's just like a standard vacuum sized one, but it
Okay.
had high ratings. I made sure to pick one that had like professional features, but was like accessible as a consumer unit. So it didn't
Nice.
break the bank, basically. And I got it on sale.
There you go. Oh man. Well, I guess we should talk about something other than cleaning carpets today,
Yeah, I
maybe.
suppose so. Yeah, yeah.
All right, so we're like
Trying to get
we're
to Bed Bath and Beyond this weekend. I don't know if we'll have time though.
um
That's an oldie, but a goodie.
yeah, literally old school, right? Um they don't make them like they used to, man. They don't make movies that funny anymore. I
No,
feel
they
like,
don't.
yeah.
Comedy is dead in America. Well, I mean, I guess I wouldn't say completely, but I mean, in terms of Hollywood, it's dead. Like they cannot make a funny movie anymore because if they make it funny, then somebody will be offended. And I got to be honest, I haven't seen like there's some like burgeoning conservative movie studios that are coming out, but they're not focusing on like that genre. I feel like it's a major missed opportunity. I'm really hoping that somebody is going to go down that road and just give us some good old fashioned irreverent comedy where people might be offended, but they recognize that they just need to get over it because it's just a freaking movie.
Is the problem, you think, the talent? Like I feel like most of the big name actors, or at least the funny guys that have made some of the best movies lately, wouldn't want to be part of it. I don't know. Like I don't know like where a lot of these guys stand typically. Like I think Vince Vaughn is pretty conservative, but other than him, like thinking back to a lot of those old funny movies, like I think most of those guys are pretty left leaning, aren't they? Like that's why.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they definitely are. I mean, and there's like this whole thing about getting canceled now, and it seems like I don't know what the heck Owen Wilson is up to. And it seems like there's also this movement to like move away from comedy. Like a lot of those guys like want into sort of more serious character pieces. And Will Ferrell, like he's just washed up. I saw him in he was in the latest season of The Boys, which was terrible, by the way. I was really disappointed because I loved the comic book. It's like definitely an adult comic book, but
Oh yeah,
it's like,
I've read it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, totally skewers like the superhero genre, and I think it's very realistic. It like the answers the question: what would happen if like normal, average narcissists in America got superpowers? Okay. And it's as bad as you might think it would be. Like people like give in to their basest desires. And so there's this like existential good versus evil kind of arc going on. But even the good guys are kind of evil because they're like real people. And so it just, I thought it was really good, but it devolved into this sort of just blatant left versus right, liberalism versus fascism, and it was very on the nose. And there was like this season more than anything, it like went down this like total divergence where you had people who were obviously meant to look like Trump supporters, and then people who were obviously meant to look like leftist protesters. They had an event that took place on January 6th, and they also had an assassination attempt on the president. Like it was just like boom, boom, boom. They just hit everything, and they had to be like, "Oh, we didn't know that there was going to be an assassination attempt on President Trump." Like, okay, yes, with all of the inner workings of Hollywood having like been like inextricably linked to the Central Intelligence Agency, you're going to tell me that like literally within a week of this episode airing, there's an assassination attempt on President Trump and they have nothing to do with each other? Okay, all right, all right. But yeah,
Yeah,
it was really depressing.
the predictive programming thing is very real. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I I really liked the first two seasons of The
Yep.
Boys. That you could see it going down that path in season three. And
Yes. Yes.
so I was debating, especially towards the end of season three, I was debating whether or not I was even gonna watch season four. I got through an episode and a half and I turned it off. I was just like, this is such a wasted opportunity because it was such a great start to the series. And there's been a few other ones like that that
Yep.
had really good early seasons, and then Donald Trump got into office, and then they used the
Mr. Robot.
Mr. Robot,
Yeah.
um, the uh, uh, the Boys, Shameless. I don't know if you ever watched Shameless on
I know.
Showtime.
No, I never watched it. My daughter watched it. She loved it, but I haven't seen it.
Shameless was one of my favorite shows for like four, maybe five seasons. I think it was like eight total, maybe. And
Hmm.
then Donald Trump gets into office, and like the next season starts off with a bunch of guys wearing MAGA hats pulling up in a pickup truck to chase a gay kid down the street. Essentially, like that. That's how like the you know what I mean. Like, and then they're
It would
all
have been
wearing.
great if they did a Jussie Smollett episode.
Yeah, right.
I mean, because he's Chicago, right?
Yeah, it's in Chicago. And then yeah, then the COVID season, they had the whole season where every character's wearing a mask everywhere they go. And it's just like the whole thing just got completely ridiculous. So
Yeah, yeah. I really didn't want it to become what I too felt it was becoming.
yeah.
And even in the third season, I felt like it really just crossed a line in terms of like the gross out, like scatological humor. Like, it had some of that in the first two seasons. I mean, certainly it was gory. There was, violence and stuff like that. But it was on this trajectory not only to become overtly politicized, but also to become kind of emasculating to men in general. And in this most recent season, yeah, I mean, basically Huey. I mean, you're not going to watch it, I'll tell you. Huey basically gets raped in one of the episodes, and he gets raped by this guy who's like a Fox News presenter, basically. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. And I watched the entire season simply out of morbid curiosity because I was like, how much worse can it get? And every single episode, they pushed it further and further. And I was really glad that I did watch it because I saw that assassination plot. And as I was watching it, I was like, how odd it is that they have turned it into this very clearly Trump-centered sort of story. Like you've got these characters that are allegorical representations of Trump in the left, and then they have an assassination attempt. And then literally the next week, July 13th happens. And I was like, well, I don't think that was an accident.
Yeah, that's wild. Like I said, I didn't make it far enough to actually see that, but that's a good segue into what I wanted to get into first, man, because it's been
Let's do it.
now over 2 weeks since the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. And we've had a couple of congressional hearings, one in the House where you had Director Cheeto, was absolutely terrible performance. And then more recently, I can't remember the name of the guy, the now acting director,
Ronald Rowe.
Ronald Rowe. Thank
Yes.
you.
And the deputy director of the FBI.
Yeah, they appeared before the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't watch all. I watched all of the Cheeto one. I only watched clips from the second one in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable, Zach. I mean, I guess my major takeaway from this is how, when you have such a massive failure, can you show up to a Senate hearing over 2 weeks later and not be able to answer basic questions about what happened that day. Like the roof being uncovered, unwatched, unobserved, not having someone on there, whatever it was, the story as to why has changed like three times. Whether it was a slope, it was too hot, it was supposed to be local, we had somebody, but then they moved. The
They went
story,
to lunch.
yeah, went to lunch. He was online shopping. He fell asleep. Who the hell knows? It's the Epstein cameras all over again.
Yeah,
Uh, how do they show up to these hearings without answers to these? They know what they're going to be asked about,
that's right.
and it completely defies credulity that after 2+ weeks they don't know who fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, is
Yes.
it weird to you that they? Because I'm coming from the space that this was an intentional inside job. I can't see it any other way based on how this is unfolded. You would think, right, that if you were going to plot a conspiracy like this, to try to pull something like this off, you would have like your patsy, your person that you're going to throw under the bus, someone that you could say, this one person screwed up. This is the reason it happened. If for nothing else, to stop people from going down that conspiratorial mindset. The fact that they've been so ambiguous and they've obfuscated and deflected and have hidden behind like ongoing investigations, which just makes no sense at this point. Like, what is going on? Like, how are they this disorganized? Do they want us to be going down these conspiratorial paths? Like, what's happening here, Zach? Because this seems sloppy even for them.
Absolutely. So you've got a number of different things going on. First of all, you're approaching it with a logical mindset, which you simply can't have in a situation like this. Of course, it's unacceptable that they would have no answers. But here's the thing. Let's just go on the assumption that the people involved at the Secret Service, likely at the FBI, certainly others within the administration and other federal agencies, their plan was to assassinate President Trump. And if the assassination of President Trump had been effective, well, then, they had their patsy, they had Thomas Crooks, they would have controlled the investigation, and they would have likely moved on other elements of the Trump machine. And they just would have essentially been able to cover it all up. What they didn't plan on is the sloppy part, that President Trump would be alive at the end of the day. Because they stacked the deck against him. They did everything they could to ensure that he was not going to make it out of there. They even went so far as to make sure people were on site to capture this moment in brilliant 8,000 frames per second so that they could place the Zapruder 2.0 film all over social media, all over mainstream media, all over the internet, everywhere. And they know that people are going to go down those conspiracy rabbit holes. It's inevitable. Now, they can't answer for any of these things because all of these various trails of evidence are going to lead back to the most obvious conclusion that it was a state-sponsored assassination attempt. So the best they can do is look as incompetent as possible. They have to appear to be so spectacularly bad at their jobs because if they're just stupid, if they're just sloppy, if they're just too overly confident in their own abilities, and as a result, a 20-year-old with no military training, no clandestine service to speak of, working at a nursing home with a variety of different encrypted devices that track overseas, but they can't get into. I mean, all of these things, none of it makes any sense. But it does make sense if he was part of that plot to kill President Trump, and they just have to use him as the patsy, and then they have to make sure that the buck stops there. Now, there are too many people who are involved here for that to be just one person. Because one person makes a decision, sure, they're going to go ahead and blame that person who was like the site supervisor. They can point to that person. But they need to be as disorganized, as ignorant, and as bad at their jobs as possible leading up to it. It was unacceptable that Kim Cheadle showed up without any basic information right there on that first hearing. And she had already given conflicting statements and more details to the mainstream media in the days leading up to that first hearing. And she didn't even want to appear. They had to subpoena her.
Funny how being under oath can bring
Yeah.
somebody in from what they're willing to say to the media, huh?
That's right. That's right. So she made conflicting statements. She gave a bunch of excuses. And then when she gets in there under oath, her story has to change because none of it was true to begin with. And the only thing that she could do was make the Secret Service look like an organization that has no business carrying out their primary mission, which is to make sure that their protectees don't get shot in the head in front of a large crowd of people. So ultimately, this is going to come down to an issue of leadership. Okay. You had bad leadership at the Secret Service. They're going to blame it on that. The people who were not where they were supposed to be, everyone was just really stupid. Everybody wasn't paying attention, even though there is no excuse for doing that. It's the only thing that they're supposed to do. And if we learn about the full extent of this state-sponsored hit on President Trump, it's not going to happen under the Biden regime. It's not going to happen under this FBI. It's not going to happen under this DOJ. It's not going to happen under this Secret Service. That information is not going to come out until President Trump returns to the White House, at which point I think they would have an open and honest investigation. And I think that he and his team have already been doing stuff like that in the background. Not to mention you have whistleblowers who are stepping forward to say, this is much bigger than just some morons stepping out to McDonald's while they were supposed to be making sure President Trump didn't get a bullet to the head. So yes, really, it's all about narrative management and making people believe that these people are as stupid as they appear, but we know they're not.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. I feel like if I'm in their shoes, whether it's going to be a successful attempt or not, like you would have somebody lined up as the fall person or a couple of people lined up as like, so you can come to the people with answers, right? Like, here's who dropped the ball. It was these two individuals. They've been relieved of their duty, and then you give them a book deal or something behind the scenes, set them up for life. You know how these people work. So like, why like to me, it's almost unfathomable that you would show up to a hearing. Okay, you give Cheeto a break because it was like 3 days after, but 17 days later, you're in the Senate and you still have like no answers to these questions. There's no way. Like T.N. Homesteader, who's on my panel during the week, his whole career was like operations and project management. So when like he was explaining like how the process of how they would when there was a fail point in a project, how they would work back, and you could usually figure it out within a few hours exactly what went wrong.
And they should. They know who that is though. Okay, but in order for that person to be the fall guy, they have to be willing to accept the blame for the situation. Yeah. What if somebody higher than them came to them and says, this is what you're going to do on this day, because this is what we've already decided is going to happen. Yeah. That person has to be willing to be the fall guy. They have to be willing to be the patsy. So in this instance, I think that it's going to lead up much, much higher than just that one person. Who knows? Maybe the person who ultimately was the site supervisor that day, maybe they're never going to get a chance to speak to Congress. Maybe they're going to have an unfortunate accident, at which point it's going to be very easy to lay that blame at their feet. But this is a much bigger conspiracy than simply just one person, because, the Secret Service is not stupid. This is not their first rodeo. This is not the first time they've protected a president. This is not the first time they've protected a president who was almost killed either. All right. They know exactly what to do and they know exactly how to do it. So what's unfathomable is that anyone would believe that they would be as stupid or as inept as it would be required of them to allow this to happen without any sort of outside interference or, interaction. I mean, really, it is a conspiracy. That's the only thing. We just have to be able to prove who it is. And right now, unfortunately, the people who are in charge of that investigation are just kind of kicking the can down the road, and they're drawing it out as long as possible. Think about, the investigation into Russiagate, how long that took. I mean, Durham might have had, all of the best intentions, but he still had to get the schedules down of all of the people that he had to investigate and interview and then put it together. And who knows exactly who was working for him and what sort of, efforts they were making behind the scenes to make sure that it didn't happen in a swift manner. And then even once the information is revealed, the ultimate decision to act on it comes at the hands of the Department of Justice. And the Department of Justice did pretty much nothing. They just, buried it. And I think that what's going to be most interesting is that you're going to have an investigation from the DOJ. You're going to have an investigation from the FBI. You're going to have an investigation from the Secret Service. You're going to have an investigation from the OIG. You're going to have an investigation from the House, the official assassination attempt task force. You're going to have a parallel investigation from Corey Mills and Eli
God,
Crane and their people. Yes.
that's the only one I freaking trust right
Me too.
there.
Me too. Me too. And then President Trump, I think that he and his people are going to have their own investigation. So you're going to have seven, no fewer than seven different investigations. Only a couple of those are we really going to be able to trust with any sort of confidence. And so they're all going to present findings. And what's going to be most interesting to me is presenting those findings and comparing them next to each other and seeing who found what. And I can guarantee it's going to be all over the place, but the majority of them at the end of the day are going to say, oh, this was just a catastrophic series of events that led to something that never should have happened.
Limited hangout that we always freaking
yes, the limited hangout. Exactly.
Well, are you surprised, Zach, that there aren't more, I don't know what the right word to use, mainstream or major influencers or elected officials that aren't going there, if you know what I mean, as far as the conspiracy aspect of this? Like, I look around and it's the catastrophic failures, the negligence, the dereliction of duty, and they're getting all up in arms about the subpar performance of Secret Service. I haven't seen, other than Corey Mills, really, and Rich Barris, who I think Rich Barris has been pretty spot on with this too. Mm-hmm. Just come out and say, like, can we stop pretending this is just like an accident that happened? Yeah. Like, can we speak like adults? Because we're not getting that. Like, my intelligence feels so insulted right now by right and left on this. The more they talk about this as a epic security failure as opposed to an intentional attempt, it really pisses me off. Like, they want me to believe, they want you to believe, they want all of us to believe, like you said, this 20-year-old nerd with absolutely no military training got into that position to take a shot at the president with no help whatsoever. He acted completely alone, and that it was just a bunch of security failures that just happened to allow him to do it. It's such a, like, it hurts my head to even consider that as a possibility, Zach. And this is what most of the quote unquote and adults in the room are they're not even like willing to go down the road of conspiracy. Like, they're terrified of it, especially those on the right. They're terrified of what the media will do and say if they say that word. And to me, it's like, at what point do you stop running away from your own shadow, face these people head on, and have an actual information war with them? At what point does that come? Because at some point it has to. And what better opportunity than the attempted assassination of the leader of the movement against these people? You know what I mean? Like, at what point do you take off the kid gloves and actually start fighting back?
I think that they will only say it once it's revealed in the form of evidence from an investigation. And, Corey Mills is the closest I've really seen even approach that, because, I mean, he's been like, come on, at a certain point, you've got to at least ask the question. And I have seen a couple of people, experts in the field that have been interviewed on Fox. I mean, Jesse Waters actually kind of stepped up to that line as well. For other people, it's exactly what you said. They are deathly afraid of what the media is going to do to them. You want to call me a conspiracy theorist? I'm okay with it. You've already done it. You've already done your worst. You're not going to do any worse by me. I'm going to call it like I see it. This is obviously a state-sponsored act of attempted assassination, and that information will come out. I'm not afraid to say it, okay? But many other people are just pussies, okay? I mean, like, they're worried about their monetization. They're worried about sponsors. They're worried about getting canceled. Like, fuck you. I've already been canceled, okay? Like, I don't care. I'm going to do exactly what I feel, and I feel with all of my heart that this was an attempted murder on behalf of the same Central Intelligence Agency and criminal cartels that have assassinated great leaders in the past here in America and around the world. The CIA has a rich history of assassinations, both here and abroad. And if you out there, anybody watching this, if you can't admit that to yourself, then you're a lost cause. Okay. And I sincerely hope that at some point in the future, you're going to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? Things were worse than I imagined them to be. Let me tell you what, they are 10 times worse than you will even broach right now. Things are already bad. This is probably the most precarious situation we've ever been in as a nation. But I have full faith that Donald Trump is going to make it. I have full faith that he's going to continue to be protected. And I have full faith that when he returns to the White House, we're going to have massive changes here in the United States. Donald Trump knows that it was the same people who tried to set him up for Russiagate that tried to murder him. I mean, he cannot come back to Washington, D.C. and simply allow those people to just do whatever they want to do. You know, I mean, remember when he was elected back in 2016 and he was inaugurated, one of the first things he did was go visit Langley. He went to the CIA unannounced, walked right in there, dropped his balls on the podium and said, I'm going to build you a new house without columns. You know what that means? Everybody knew what that means. The CIA is a fifth column. It is the heart of the resistance inside the United States government. They want to destroy the republic, and they want to erect, some sort of oligarchy where they can sit in the seat of power. Donald Trump cannot allow them to continue to operate in the way that they have. Otherwise, he will never be safe. America will never be safe. Things will change. It's just we got to give it a little bit of time.
Yeah, and I go back to, what our favorite Anon said back when he was posting about you are the news now. And it hits harder now than ever before, because I think about all the different narratives that they've tried to use to take down Donald Trump, and how it's been the independent researchers, the Anons, the independent media people, who have kind of forced the hand of the mainstream to cover things, right? And I think this will be another big one that eventually they're going to have to face the facts on. I mean, you saw it with COVID. There's no way, that they would have ever, you would have had Congress or these oversight committees ever really push as hard as they did when it came to the origins of COVID, the vaccine efficacy, all these different things that typically would have just been jammed down our throats had it not been for independent research and a non-research and independent media kind of fighting back against these narratives, giving some people in positions of power and influence, some courage to go and actually ask the right questions and bring some of those ideas to the mainstream, to the point where you've actually flipped the official narrative on many of these things that probably would have been dismissed as conspiracy theories in the past, and we move on from. And I think this is no different. How about Donald Trump continuing to hold outdoor rallies despite all of this? I mean, the balls on this guy, Zach. I mean, he is like when who said it? He's the ultimate American badass. Was that Dana White? I think during the RNC.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
he really is. I mean, what a middle finger to the entire establishment that tried to take him out, to say, no, I'm going right back out there. Try me. Like, that's,
yeah. He's just showing that he's brave. And also, I mean, they will not be able to attempt to assassinate him again in that way without making it too overtly obvious. Now, Utah Money Mover, I mean, I'm talking about the deep state. The CIA is an easy example because they were complicit in the assassinations that we've seen here in the past. I'm not isolating the CIA as the only corrupt element of the federal bureaucracy. I'm talking in a larger sense about the deep state itself. And so, that is what controls the Invention Secrecies Act. It's ubiquitous across the federal government. So I'm talking about a full-scale gutting of the federal bureaucracy. And it's not just going to be getting rid of the CIA. It's not just going to be getting rid of the FBI. It's not going to be just gutting the DOJ. I mean, we're talking about a complete overhaul to the United States government and, a paring down of that federal bureaucracy. That's the only way this is going to work. Now, Donald Trump needs to look brave. Donald Trump is brave. I think that Donald Trump believes that he is safe. They have now given him the full Secret Service detail, the people that were with him before. I truly believe that Donald Trump is going to vet every single person that comes around him. There's also probably going to be unique and secret safety protocols that are taking place to ensure that he remains alive and that he remains well. And then he also has private security from Blackwater that are with him to help keep him safe. They're never going to be able to get anybody at a vantage point like that within, shooting distance between now and inauguration day. And, people will say, they'll never let him come back. Okay, well, watch it happen. Let's see what happens. Either they kill Donald Trump and America is toast, or Donald Trump defies the odds in the same way he did back in 2016, and we get about the business of making America great again and destroying the deep state. I believe that's what's going to happen. The last 4 years have been very, very traumatic for a lot of people. But the one good thing that it's done has coalesced the attention of the American people around what truly is wrong with this country and what needs to change. And America just witnessed, as the only politician who has the best interests of the American people at heart, was attempted to be removed from the situation 2 weeks ago. All right. And as I said, they don't murder the tyrants. They don't murder the despots here in America. Okay. Can you imagine anybody trying to assassinate Hillary Clinton? No, wouldn't happen. They didn't try to assassinate George H.W. Bush. They didn't try to assassinate George W. or Bill Clinton. Okay. They tried to assassinate Donald Trump. Who else have they assassinated? All right. Well, they assassinated civil rights leaders, Malcolm X, MLK. They assassinated the Kennedy brothers. They assassinated Abraham Lincoln. No matter what you think of him, there's a reason they took him out. And in the same way, there's a reason they had to remove General Flynn as soon as Donald Trump got elected, because Donald Trump had a skeleton key to Washington, D.C. and its dirtiest secrets. All right. Now, in the last 4 years, Donald Trump has continued to maintain relationships and also to get to know the machinations of D.C. in a way that, he didn't before he came into the office in 2017. So by Joe Biden destroying America, America watching that election get stolen, America watching the Democrats prepare to steal it again here in 2024, and watching the only politician who gives a shit about this country try to get assassinated, people understand just how dirty this stuff is. And they also understand exactly what's at stake. And so people are rallying around Donald Trump. People are fleeing from the Democrat Party. Okay, the party of democracy is preparing to install yet another president who hasn't gotten 1,000 votes. Okay, back in 2020 in the primary, Kamala Harris, she got 894 votes before she dropped out. All right, that's it. And nobody liked her then. Nobody likes her now. Nobody can name a single accomplishment that she's done, but they can tell you a whole lot of things that she's done that are unsavory and reasons that they don't care for her. So she doesn't have the support. Donald Trump has the support. And I think that the eyes of Americans have been just pried wide open in the last 4 years. And people are hungry to get their freedom back.
Do you think that the assassination attempt has landed in that way in the average normie psyche? Like, do you think that they understand that, like, the evil forces that control this country, Donald Trump being an existential threat to that, like a new beacon of light for this country, and they tried to snuff it out and keep down the trajectory we were on? Like, do you think that really hits the way we see it, like, for the average normie there? Because I get it, you get it, everyone watching this show, I would assume, understands, like, the battle of good and evil, what Donald Trump represents, what the people that tried to kill him represent. But I wonder about, like, your average weekend warrior, the guy that or girl that might just be flipping through, like, Facebook headlines. They watch their local sports ball team. They don't really get all that involved in this stuff. Obviously, everyone has seen the clip of him being shot at. They know what happened, but do you think they really understand? Has it clicked? Like, oh my God, they tried to kill this man, or like how much do you think that really lands with the average person out there? The weight of it.
I think that it landed with a statistically significant number of people. How many? I can't tell you. What percentage? I can't tell you. But I
Right.
know that it did resonate with a lot of people who were not Donald Trump supporters. Okay. Maybe people who were, on the fence. They didn't know. They certainly didn't feel like Joe Biden was doing a great job, but maybe they couldn't stomach themselves voting for Donald Trump. I'll tell you what, the situation in Israel has a lot of people changing their votes as well. And, no matter which side you stand on, it's definitely affecting people. Should it be the most important thing? No, absolutely not. I mean, I think that, we got to take care of our own country before we can worry about the status or the safety or security of any other peoples around the world. But for some people, that is like the number one issue. For most people, the number one issue is the economy. It's just simply what is happening in their daily lives. And inflation is up, like in real world terms, like 300%. Okay. People are paying way more for something that they paid a lot less for when Donald Trump was in office. Michael freaking Rappaport, the number one Donald Trump hater in the world on the internet. Okay. He just did an interview with Sage Steele where he was like, I was wrong about Donald Trump. Okay. And he's like,
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. He's already said before, voting for Donald Trump's on the table. And now he wouldn't say that he was going to vote for Donald Trump, but he was like, I won't vote for Biden. Okay. So, if people have their mind made up one way or the other, and they do show up to vote, chances are pretty good that they're going to go in the direction that feels the safest. Okay. And right now, Donald Trump is the safe bet. Now, beyond that, just we have had the Kennedy assassination drilled into our minds, the idea of assassinations drilled into our minds. And whether or not people are like deep researchers on the effects of the deep state or the actions of the CIA here in America, I mean, everybody knows about CIA, crack cocaine, Los Angeles. Everybody knows about assassinations of really powerful and important political leaders. Most people know about CIA coups being run in countries all around the world. What's the constant here? Okay. And we just had the CIA obviously working on behalf of the Biden regime throughout the 2020 election, up until he dropped out here in the 2024 election. And you've got this unnatural situation with Kamala Harris. Nothing feels right. Nothing feels even remotely democratic. It doesn't feel like a republic anymore either. And so they try to assassinate Donald Trump. And just think about how many people were like, just the fact that he got up and put his fist in the air and said, fight, fight, fight. Like so many people were like, that dude's badass. And I am voting for him now as a result of that. Think about Elon Musk. Elon Musk was not a Trump supporter. He may have been obviously pushed to the right, but he had never said, I'm voting for Donald Trump. Okay. And on that day, when that bullet zipped past his head, there were so many tweets from so many people of influence on that platform who were like, you know what? I'm just going to say it. I'm voting for Donald Trump. I'm completely convinced at this point. I think that it's statistically significant. I think that Donald Trump already had the upper hand. And I think 100% they are going to try to cheat again in this next election. But you've got a series of factors which are going to be different this time around.
So I want to get into that because you can see them setting it up. They're running these poll numbers now with Kamala, trying to make her seem like she's like this great savior of Democrat enthusiasm, and they're running these polls out. It's funny because you'll look at the numbers, you'll get into the crosstabs, and you'll see like she's down 10 points with independents. Yet they look at the overall poll and it's dead even or within the margin of error. It's like there's something not quite right about what they're doing. But you can see them trying to seed it that she's close enough to win.
Yep.
Like we saw in 2020 and in 2016. How confident are you that enough fraud can be mitigated and that the Republican turnout will be great enough to a combination of too big to rig and actually playing some defense? Because I'm looking at Pennsylvania, they're going to be counting votes for days after. I think Wisconsin just their Supreme Court just re-allowed drop boxes. Fortunately, in Georgia, there was a ruling that I think forces signature match verification or counting at a local level, one of the two. That seems to be pretty good. But for the most part, you haven't seen any legislative reform in these battleground states that would give you much confidence that there's anything in place to stop it from happening again. Um, the
Well,
only major difference I can see is new leadership at the RNC and maybe a level of preparedness from them and their election lawyers to be on the spot, getting ahead of these things as opposed to reacting to them after the damage has been done. But aside from the Trump campaign strategy to embrace these new ways of voting by mail, early drop boxes, and the RNC maybe hiring some more lawyers, what else is there? Is that simply it? Is that our playbook, and we hope it's enough to get us over the finish line and hopefully make better changes next time around?
I think that you're going to have more people voting, more living people voting this time. You're going to have every single person that voted for Donald Trump back in 2020 hungry to get him back in there. And so that is going to be significant right there. You're also going to have people who are dedicated to being a part of that count process to make sure that we don't get screwed in the same way that we did before. There's also no plandemic, so there's no standing 6 feet apart. There's no getting kicked out of the count rooms. The Trump organization controlling the RNC is highly significant as well. And PJW in the chat yesterday said he just got trained as a poll watcher, and the RNC gave him a phone number of a lawyer to call if they see something. All right, so they're going to be watching for people counting these ballots, not doing signature matching, ballot dumps coming in the middle of the night with no chain of custody. All of those things are going to be challenged by those lawyers at the time that they happen. This is not going to be something that is allowed to just slip through and for the narrative to be sown without anybody there to pay attention to it or to even take action on it. So the probably the most dangerous aspect right now is going to be the illegal votes from people who came here, got a social security number and a driver's license, and then cast a ballot. That's going to be, obviously a significant number of people too, tens of thousands, millions, perhaps, and that's going to be in virtually every single state. So even beyond that, I think that you're going to have people within Congress that are fully aware of the tricks of the Democrats and the DC elite class, the way that they stole it before, and people were ready to challenge that vote count in 2020. But what stopped it was the events of January 6th. There won't be another January 6th this time around. And
Right.
if it does appear that there is some form of election fraud, I think you're going to have the popular support necessary within Congress to ensure that those counts are correct and that there isn't some sort of 80 guerrillion votes coming for Kamala Harris, because I don't think anybody would believe it. So, it's not going to be an easy task. And I think that it will be a fight. I think there's no way around it because, of course, they're going to try to cheat. But I just have ultimate faith in the end that we're going to be able to overcome what happens. And by and large, the majority of Americans will be supporting Donald Trump. And so when he becomes president again, it's not going to be a summer of love or anything like that. I think that we're going to have to go hard in a number of areas. We're going to have to go straight back to law and order. We're going to have to go straight to deporting people who are not supposed to be here. And we're going to basically have to take the same track that Ecuador did.
Yeah. Do you think we'll have a winner on November 5th? Like, do you think we'll go to
No.
bed? No, yeah.
I doubt it. I bet you they're going to try to drag it out as long as possible, unless it doesn't come down to Pennsylvania and Georgia and Wisconsin. If Donald Trump just sweeps the nation, if it's like a 1980 with Ronald Reagan again, it won't matter. As soon as he gets to 270, he's going to claim victory, and that's it.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he pulls off a couple upsets. Like, I'm looking at states like Virginia. I think Virginia is in play. I look at New Jersey as one that could surprise people. Who knows? I mean,
yeah, I think you're going to have a lot of traditionally just sacred blue states that are going to go red.
how much effort should he put into those versus like the battleground states. Like, you know, you can only be so many places at once. You know, how hard should he go for like a place like New York, New Jersey, Virginia, places like that versus like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, you know, like
Well, I mean, they're basically all battleground states at this point. But those three that you just mentioned, you know, I mean, like those are states that the Democrats always just kind of take for granted. So they don't have like an on the ground presence. I mean, they just assume they're going to win them. So the very fact that Donald Trump has a presence there, or he's doing rallies and he's showing up and there is support. I mean, I think that that shows the people that, you know, he's actually paying attention. You know, I mean, he's there for a reason. I think that as much on the ground support as we can get in every single state, I think that's going to be really, really important. I don't think we can take any of these states for granted. You know, even the states, you know, like Florida, like I still think like there has to be like campaign presence down here. And, you know, that all comes down to people like us. You know, how much work are we willing to do to make sure that Donald Trump is going to become president again? Because if we've learned anything, and I hope that people understand this, we can't just expect that like somebody else is going to do the hard work. You know, I mean, that somebody else will tell them about Trump. No, we've got to be ambassadors for Trump. We've got to be ambassadors for America first, because otherwise, you know, people are still watching the mainstream media, not nearly as much as were before, you know, and you have a lot of people who have come to the alternative media far more than I think were there during the 2016 or even the 2020 election. But you got a lot of people that are looking elsewhere because they sense that the official narrative is a lie. So we've got to be ambassadors for this stuff. Don't wait for somebody else to do it.
Absolutely. All right, let's take care of our sponsors, and then we'll come back and wrap things up here on the other side. First sponsor today is a quick message from Mike Lindell and MyPillow.
You ask and we listen. We're finally bringing the most requested offer ever. Get the queen size premium MyPillow, now only $19.98. MyPillow is made with patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position. It helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long so you get the best sleep of your life. But that's not all. Get our 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets only $25. Our brand new mattress topper as low as $69.98. Get our famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25 and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen-size MyPillow, only $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay, order today. From all of us here at MyPillow, thanks America!
In today's fast-paced world, peace of mind is priceless. That's where Badlands Media steps in. Preparing for life's uncertainties is about being ready for anything, right where you are. Welcome to the Badlands Media Shop. We've partnered with Patriot companies offering products that empower you to prepare for any eventuality comfortably from your home. The Badlands Media Shop has everything you need to secure your peace of mind. Browse the virtual aisles. Prepare your family for the year ahead with products you can trust from companies that share your values. Whether it's growing your own food or prepping long-term storage, protecting your family, or stocking up on emergency supplies, we've got you covered. Get prepared. Visit Badlands Media Shop at badlandsmedia.tv/shop today. Every purchase supports a freedom-loving business as well as Badlands Media. That's badlandsmedia.tv/shop. Thank you for your continued support.
All right. Big thank you to our sponsors today. And thank you to everybody out there who continues to support them. If you're watching on the Badlands Rumble, please hit that thumbs up button for us if you haven't already done so. That really helps us out. Wherever you're watching, please share the link. Get that out there to all my friends and fam over on pill.net. Please hook up the channel with a red pill and repost the show. Really appreciate you guys doing that. Zach, did you see the Trump's visit to the National Association of Black Journalists yesterday? Did you see any clips from that?
I did. It was pretty glorious. A bit of a shit show. But it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Before we just go down that road, let me just say I just shared the link to Time of Deceit in both of the chats. And this is just along the vein of being an ambassador for America First. And if you've got some normie friends or people who are just kind of coming to the understanding that they've been lied to and that the mainstream media is deceitful, this film is free. It's available on the Badlands Media Rumble page. It's got over 1 million views now, 1,150,000. So please share that with people. It's an excellent way to kind of get them into the mindset that they need to start thinking about this entire thing differently. All right. So Donald Trump at the National Association of Black Journalists. It began exactly as I thought it was. I mean, that woman was clearly very rude. She didn't like Donald Trump. I thought he was getting a pretty good reaction from the crowd. I mean, it was obvious it wasn't half of them. Maybe it was closer to like 20% or something like that. But I mean, it was enough people that they were out there, they were participating, and I think that they were responsive to what he was saying.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
no, I agree. The very first question was absolutely ridiculous. I love how Trump responded to it by just calling her out for being a horrible witch of a person. But then he was making fun of Kamala Harris. He's like, I thought she was Indian. Now she's black. And one of my favorite moments.
Black.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments was the what's her name, Rachel Scott, I think, from ABC goes, she is always identified as a black female or something like that. And it's like, who cares what she identifies as? Like, what is she? Like, that's the point, is she's choosing what she identifies as based on who she's pandering to in the moment. We saw it with a ridiculous rally the other night where all of a sudden she has a Southern accent in Georgia. It's incredible. So if you're, I guess, because we're running out of time here, I guess I'll boil it down to one question. If you're Donald Trump, is that like, do you make that a big part of your campaign? Like, do you make ads like showing the pandering and the race changing and the overall ridiculous nature of all of this? How hard do you go at her for that? Or is that too off-putting to like the moderate independent like normies out there? Because to me, that was so powerful. That was such a powerful moment, but I'm biased. I see things through a lens of understanding how all this works. Like, I don't know how that same moment would play to someone who doesn't pay that close of attention. Like,
so I don't think it needs to be like the number one thing that gets talked about, but I mean, I think certainly it highlights the pandering nature of Kamala Harris, and not only Kamala, but the Democrat Party in particular. They're trying to play to whatever they believe is going to give them the best result. And, in 2020, she never said she was black. Okay. When she became a senator, she was congratulated through some like Indian delegation. They were like the first Indian senator in the United States. Was it Nikki Haley? No, she was a governor. She was a governor. I'm sorry. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it was all about her being Indian. And even when she ran for president, she didn't say, I'm a black woman running for president. She said, I'm an Indian woman running for president. And then once she becomes the vice president, well, then Joe Biden, he needs the support of black Americans. And so they decide to switch it up and say, well, this is what she identifies as. Certainly, I think it's something that needs to be talked about. But yeah, I mean, for some people, they think that means that Donald Trump is racist, and people passed around her birth certificate now, and they're trying to draw this false equivocation between the Obama birth certificate and this birth certificate. I mean, like, if somebody like us, if I was like, guess what? I'm a black American hosting a podcast. Okay. They would probably be like, well, hold on just a second. How long have you been black for? You've never said you were black before. And now it seems like you're pandering. So, I mean, it's the kind of thing that would be brought up if it was the other way around. So, yeah, I think it definitely needs to be part of the conversation because, there is a good portion of black America who feel that they've been lied to by the Democrats. They've been taken for advantage. They've been taken advantage of. They've been taken for granted. And they've been told time and time again that the Democrats are going to do something to lift up the black community. But all they do is use them. They keep them in an impoverished and substandard state so that they can keep coming to them every 4 years and saying, oh, you're so put upon, we need to do something about that. but they're not going to do anything about it. They just want somebody to walk in and vote for them so then they can go back to their ivory tower and completely forget they exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. Does Kamala have hot sauce in her purse? I'm sure she always does. That's yeah, unbelievable. And just real fast
Oh,
before you go, Zach,
okay.
'cause I know you have to run, but they got all upset with Trump because he called her a DEI hire because there are other people in his orbit calling Kamala Harris a DEI hire. I
Mm-hmm.
just want to bring this up because it's on the Gateway Pundit. Here's a White House statement from Joe Biden. It says, to me, the values of diversity, equality, and inclusion, DEI, are literally, and this is not kidding, the core strengths of America. That's why I'm proud to have the most diverse administration in history that taps into the full talents of our country. And it starts at the top with the vice president. So he literally himself calling her a DEI hire.
That's right.
And it's coming right from them. He did it with Ketanji Jackson. He did it with Kamala Harris. All they care about is immutable qualities. They are the enemies of any kind of meritocracy or anything that could actually make this country prosperous and successful. With that, Zach, I know you got to run. I know you're going live here in like 2 minutes. If you want to plug your show before you go, take a second. Otherwise, thanks for the time, man.
Oh, always great to be here. I'm going to be live here at 5 p.m. So we'll see you guys later. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Peace.
Later, Zach.
Bye-bye.
There he goes. Zach Payne of RedPill78 news.com. One of the very best. Love that guy, and very grateful for the hour each week. Shout out to Frankie Val, who couldn't make it today. He was running behind prepping his show, but he'll go live at 7 o'clock this evening. He goes live 7 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. Check out all things Quite Frankly at quitefrankly.tv. And big shout out to both those guys. A huge thank you to my friends over at Badlands Media for syndicating the show. It's an honor to be broadcast over on that network to a giant audience that tunes in over there. So much love to the whole Badlands fam. Ricklow 100, thank you for the Rumble rants, as I was born a poor black child. Thank you, Ricklow, for the Rumble rant. I do appreciate that very, very much. Guys, it's been a fun hour of taking it back, and I'm very grateful for all of you tuning in. I am going to hang out for a little while longer, exclusively on 412 Productions over on pilled.net. So I don't know if my Pilled fam is up for a little overtime. If you guys want to hang out a bit longer, I don't know what we'll get into exactly yet. I never really have a plan because I'm never 100% sure if I'm going to be doing these things or not. But I'm going to do another hour, maybe take some calls, scan some headlines, just shoot the shit, maybe play some music. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'll ask the audience what they want to do when we go over there exclusively. So we'll be doing that here in a little bit. So if you want to join me and hang out for another hour, let me put the link in all the chats here. So I'm going to put it over in the Badlands chat on Rumble. If you guys want to hang out, there's the link. It's on the Rumble chat for 412 Productions as well. And I'll throw it over on my DLive chat as well. So there you go. It's out there. If you can't find your way over there with the link, it's really easy. Just go to pilled.net. You could use a little search bar there. Find us at 412 Productions. All the live channels have thumbnails at the top of the screen on mobile, on the left side of the screen if you're on desktop. So you can very easily find our little black and gold 412 Productions thumbnail and join the show. I'm going to play a little outro video. We'll come back, shut down the other platforms. We'll read all the gold pills that have come in at that point too. And then we'll figure out what the heck we're going to be doing for hour number 2. So that is the plan. Live chat, let me know what you want to get into. If you want me to find some headlines, do some news, if you want to do call-ins, if you just want to do some music and a chill hangout, tell me what you're into, what you want to do over there on pilled.net while we play this video and do some end of show housekeeping. But that is going to do it for the first part of the show. For Zach Payne of RedPill78news.com, my name is Adel Nero, and this has been Taking It Back, a 412 production syndicated by our wonderful friends over on Badlands Media. For those of you that won't be continuing on, have a great rest of your Thursday. For those of you that want to keep hanging out, come over to pilled.net at 412 Productions. We'll see you guys soon. All right, again, thank you everyone for tuning in. We're going to do another hour on pilled.net at 412 Productions if you want to keep hanging out. Otherwise, have a great rest of your Thursday, and I'll be live again tomorrow across all platforms at 4 p.m. Eastern Time at 412 Productions. All right, over to Pilled. See you guys soon.